Bongani, thank you very much for joining me today. I know we were supposed to meet and film 2 weeks ago, and then technical difficulties and but we're here today, and I'm very thankful and happy that you're here. And I know we're gonna probably retouch on some of the stuff we've spoken about before. I hope you don't mind.
I don't mind.
So I think to start from the beginning, because the beginning is always the best place to start, and then we'll build from there. Where are you from? What qualification do you have? And then after that, I'd like to go into your tertiary education journey.
Sure. Well, sometimes the end is a good way to start. But
you reckon?
Yeah, sometimes you need to start from the end.
Let's start there.
From the current, not the end.
The
end is not yet.
What are you doing now? What are you doing now? And then we'll go back to the beginning.
At the moment, I'm actually doing my own consulting work with whoever is interested in the issues of environmental management, energy, and I see water is going to be an issue now, so there'll be a lot of work in that space.
What's energy, like electricity?
Electricity.
Okay.
Yes. So I have a PhD in environmental management.
Come on, let them know. Let them know.
Yeah, so I got my PhD in 2017.
Sure.
I should be trying to work towards being an associate professor, but I'm just a bit lazy. I'm trying to make money. Yeah. So my name is Bongani. You asked me if the name Gray, it was actually...
Because Gray is your nickname?
Yes. Yeah. It was given to me at TEFLOP. And for various reasons, I think I love David Gray. Actually, he's coming to perform now in December. And because the story of my life wasn't very clear for even myself at that time, I had too many questions about who I am, where I come from, even to a point, questioning my own paternity, and especially from my father's side. So it's always been, my life has almost always been a shade of gray on its own.
Yeah.
And I don't have the answers yet to every question that I had ever since I was a child. But I'm from Zanin. I'm not sure if you know Congo.
I don't know Congo, but I know Zanin.
Yes, I'm from...
You guys are from another country, basically. You need to get a visa within South Africa.
Yes. I'm from Congo. People when they say they're from Zanin, they mean normally they're from Congo. Congo is just a township next to Zanin. Zanin is a town. So I was born in Limpopo. I was raised in Limpopo. Got my first university qualification in Limpopo.
Hey.
Nearly married from Limpopo. Thank God I didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, thank God it's not because of issues with women from Limpopo. You're talking about your specific...
Just...
You must make sure, Baba. People are going to be like, hey, what's wrong with women from Limpopo? You speak about your personal experience.
Yes, my own personal experiences.
Sure.
So, talking about marriage, I'm married in KZN, in Stenga.
Oh, because Zulu women are such quality.
Yes. No, she's wonderful.
Yeah. Congrats to both of you.
Thank you. My story and her story are almost so intertwined.
Yeah.
We met maybe 23 years ago, 21 years. Yeah, maybe 22 years ago.
Wow. How long have you been married for?
It's now 4 years.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats.
And she's one person who knows me more than any other person, I think more than all my own parents. It's a bit scary. I've never been so vulnerable in a way. But yeah, she knows me that well. And we've been together for that long, almost half of my life. I mean, I'm 40. So if I've known someone for that long.
Is that a good thing, just to detour a bit, for someone to know you that well and to your words, to make you feel vulnerable? She has some power over you.
I think it is important to be vulnerable to someone that you trust with that vulnerability. It's not always the best feeling. You want to keep some sort of mystery about your life, whether it's from friends, close friends, even to an extent, a spouse. You want to think that there are things about you that they would be surprised if they found out.
Because we worry about specifically women.
Yes.
I'll say this quickly. I've found that men, when they're angry, they use the fist They use the hand.
Yes.
This is what happens when a man can no longer argue or he feels he's losing a conversation.
Yes.
With women, because they don't have that,
Yeah.
the best thing they have is to attack you in other ways. And they normally go for your vulnerability.
Yes.
Do you love your children?
Yes.
Do you love your mother? Do you love your car? And that's what they go for.
Yes.
So that becomes a fear, not just being vulnerable to anyone, but in particular your spouse. Because now at any given time, Baba, walasha, it's game over for you.
Yeah. Definitely. What you've just said about how men react or how men deal with their vulnerabilities is very evident in South Africa. How, the so-called gender-based violence, it's almost always one-sided. It's actually not a gender-based violence, it's a man-based violence issue. I don't know, we seem to reach our ceiling very quickly in terms of how we deal with things. And that's how I've, maybe later in the conversation, I'll share how my parenting philosophy is. And I have 3 sons. I have a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. And you can't believe I still try and negotiate with my 3-year-old to do things.
Yeah.
And the quicker way to get the results that you're looking for from children is to be hard-headed.
Yeah.
And is for you to be tougher and tell them, this is my house. Do what I want. But the tougher way, which is the right way, is not to give them choices, but to give them reasons why they should do or shouldn't do specific things. If you give them choices, they will always act according to their own convenience. And that is how I was raised. I was raised in a situation where I felt cornered. And I mean, as far as I can remember, I was raised by my grandmother. From birth. In fact, my name was not given by my father, was given by my grandmother, Kokwan Zulu.
Your great-grandmother?
My great-grandmother.
Okay.
My father wanted to name me Terence. It was such a horrible name.
How?
I feel like someone said, hey, Terence, like right now.
You don't like the name Terence?
No.
Because it was coming from your father?
I think I'm glad he was defeated in that. So my grandmother said, no, his name is Bongani.
Yeah.
Ironically, my grandmother's name was Zulu, Kokwani Zulu. And she was Tsonga.
Her name was Zulu?
Yes.
Her name was Zulu?
Yes.
Beautiful.
And she's Tsonga. And that's now the history of the Tsongas and the Zulus is such an interesting thing there. But she named me Bongani, which is also actually a name that is both Zulu and Tsonga. Depending how you spell it. You spell it with a V is Tsonga, with a B is Zulu.
Yeah.
And my surname is Chavalala. Again, if you remove the B and you put a V there, it becomes Tsonga.
And I've been misspelling your surname for a long time.
I saw that. And then, my grandmother gives me the name. My grandmother gives me the name. And I look nothing like my father at all. My father is your complexion.
Yeah.
And he does not have beard. He doesn't grow hair in his body.
Yeah.
And he's a bit tall, light-skinned. And men are very petty with things like that. Men are petty with how they look whether they look like their offsprings, especially the firstborn.
It's because the one person that will ever know whose child it is the mom.
It's the mom.
We never know.
Yeah.
That's why for some women, they don't understand that giving a child the father's surname is almost the only gift you can give the father. That's why men are so funny about it. Because you already know it's your child.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Until you give the child my surname, at least I have something. But yes, we end up becoming petty.
Such an artificial thing, surnames. My firstborn does not use my surname because the mother decided to change it back to her own surname.
Her father's surname?
No, her mother also refused to give them their father's surname because he left. So she then used her surname on them. And then when I had a child with her and I left, she then also revoked my surname and brought her back the actual surname. So it's Tobejane. So it's Tobejane. And people have asked me, what does it mean? Don't you feel heart-tender? But no, it's a surname. What could that possibly do? But hey, I've thought of changing my surname, but out of anger. Yeah. When I was at TEF, I did think hard and I did consult about how to change my surname because I didn't want to carry the Chavalala surname. I just couldn't think that if I ever achieve anything in life, it will be attributed to him and the Chavalala family. You know, when people say Dr. Chavalala now, I almost would accept half of that and don't want the association with the Chavalala.
Would you prefer your mother's surname?
I think I would prefer any surname but Chavalala surname.
Specifically your father? Your issue is specifically your father?
He's in the forefront of, as an adult, as a father, and he's the main reason that most of how my life turned out to be, and good and bad, by the way. But, you know, culturally, if you go out with a specific surname, when you do well, when you achieve things, the rest of the society almost assume that is the Chavalala people, that is the
100%.
You carry the glory, and I feel like sometimes it's not deserved.
Most times today, children are raised by single mothers.
Yes.
And their families.
Yes.
And not by the fathers and their families. But it's the father and the family that carries the entire honor.
Yeah. And they'll be so quick to disown you if you do bad.
Yeah.
They would wish they could get rid of that surname in your name. We have, I don't know, such a petty... We're in a time which I think men as compared to women generally are a bit petty. And, but yeah, that's just one part of my story up to now. I think I carry such complexities about my identity. Right? When I got married...
We normally associate that with like colored people or first generation color. We never assume that Black African people have got identity crises. We never assume that. It's always mixed race only.
We do. And this is why we have that complexity. In my case, my mother had me when she was doing Matric. And Chavalala did not know his parents. So they passed away. I hear, and I'm talking about my own father, but we have never had a conversation. It's so odd that I wouldn't remember any meaningful conversation that I've ever had with my father. I don't even remember having any physical touch with him. All the other interaction is if I was being punished for doing something wrong, or if he's forcing me to work the yard, cut the grass, do the gardening. That is the only time that I can remember. That is when we will exchange our words. Any other time, I can't remember anything. And I try sometimes to understand, and I do understand. I've come to a position where I think I understand. It still does not make it right, in a way. But I've also, Penuel, in a way, thought, whatever life happens, right? And it's what you do with the situations.
Yeah.
And in my situation, you either turn totally bad or you turn great. And I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not necessarily an angel. I'm also not a very good person either way. But I also haven't achieved half of what I think I would achieve in life. But I also am grateful for life as it happened, because I told you about, I think, informal conversation, I almost value independence that it brought me. The fact that there's nothing that except my wife now, unfortunately, but I've learned never to depend on anyone for anything, precisely because I couldn't depend on my own parents. So if you can't depend on those who gave birth to you, one certainly gave birth to you, one allegedly might be your father. But I mean, I question if he has the same questions, but he has just never been confrontational about it.
Do you look like your mother?
Well, it does not come from a womb, but no. But there are characteristics of me, my voice, some of my behavior. I could see it in my mother, but also with Chavalala as well. Let me just be fair. I do pick up specific things like Chavalala wouldn't. His way of, when he's angry in the house, he just doesn't talk to anyone. Yeah. He had the silent treatment thing.
Yes.
And he wouldn't talk to anyone for weeks when he's angry. And I'm that way. So when I get angry, because I can't use my hands, because I can't shout, and because I just retrieve, and my wife will have to deal with the silent treatment until such time. Okay, you can go fishing now. Go to the dam and go fish.
Why do you say you can't use your hand and you can't shout? Is that a personal thing you've decided you can't, or are you speaking from a society won't allow you?
So I'm not a violent person. I think I don't have that in me.
Okay.
You know, the only thing I kill easily is a fish, but I wouldn't kill an animal. I have friends who hunt, and I just can't figure out how they put a bullet over an animal and then go and cut its throat. Yes, I'll eat it if they cook it, but I wouldn't do it. So even with my wife, my children, you know, and I'm making a bit of mistakes now, because I think I'm making a bit of mistakes around how I discipline my children. Because Chavalala used to beat me. I don't beat my children. And I've made that promise to myself. And sometimes it's frustrating not having to beat your children. And until this time, my second born beat his younger brother's finger. That is the only time I took a belt, and I said to him, you're going to be your brother's keeper. If you had your own brother in my presence, what about in my absence? So I had to do it that day. I had to take a belt and give him. And he's not angry with me. He understands. And I think that was a difference. I never understood why Chavalala would beat me that much.
Yeah.
And I saw it from a point of hate, regrets. And I can't say what regrets he has, but I could just not, in a way, connect the punishment to the doings that I was.
Outside of some of his behavior, physically, you don't look anything like your father.
No. If you walked here, you wouldn't know it. They might think he's more like your father than mine.
So you don't look much like your mom, except for voice and a few characteristics, and then you think some of your behaviors like your dad, but you don't look anything like him.
No, I think it could have been assimilation. I think there's things that I might have learned to observe as a child, and I carried those with me.
So you still have those questions of, is this really my father to this day?
Yes, I do. And
you've never spoken to him about it? Or your mother?
No, I have spoken to my mother. I've asked my mother since I was a child. Maybe when I was 11, I used to ask, is he really my father? You know. But in terms of me and him, like I'm saying, we have never had a discussion. We can't sit down like this and have a conversation. It never happened when he was happier or when he was sad. It just couldn't happen. And so I literally grew up independent of him.
Your great-grandmother gave you a name?
Yes.
Her name was Zulu?
Yes.
Which is my second-born son's name. It's a beautiful name.
Yes.
You were raised by your grandmother?
Yes.
For how long did you live with your grandmother before you lived with your parents, leading up to Matric?
I lived with my grandmother until I was maybe 7, because I remember I went to school to standard 8 then. She was the one who was taking me to school. She was an alcoholic.
Did you say until standard 7?
No. No. I mean, I left. They took me from her to his sister. We call her Han in my language, aunt. I think for a year in Seshego. I lived with my father's sister.
Yeah.
And then they took me to live with them, I think around 1986, 1987. So from the age of 1 to around 8 or 9, I was raised by my grandmother and his aunt.
And this was largely because your mom had you while she was at school?
She was at school.
Okay.
He was a laborer. He didn't go to school. So he worked for the Department of Water all his life. He's now just progressed in becoming a plant manager, but he literally started with just digging.
Yeah.
Again, these are not the stories that he has ever told me. These are the things I will hear people talk about.
Yeah.
And from the age of 10, so they take me there around 8 or 9, and then I leave home when I'm 18. So I literally left.
Your parents were living together?
Yes.
Okay, and you were raised by them until Matric?
Until Matric, until I was 18.
Okay.
Then I left home and I never went back.
What happens after 18? Where do you go and why?
So, listen, I'm a marathon runner, and I think I would be the fastest marathon runner in the world. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And at the age of 15, I entered 21 kilometers, and I entered that race late, 15 minutes late, and I finished top 20, and I'm 15. And I get a medal, and then they ask for my age at the end. And they say, no, this is a 16. I think I was 14, and minimum age for 21 kilometers around 1996, 97. It was actually 16 years, and I was 15. So they say, we'll give you the medal, but please don't run this kind of distances until you're at specific age. Yeah. But I fall in love with running. And I think it happened right at the right time, where I'm now I'm in my adolescent stage, and I'm in the most dangerous part of it because I don't have a father figure that I can rely on to navigate some of life's issues. But I started running, and I was bad at school. So academically, I'm horrible up to honors degree. I started getting a distinction in an assignment when I was doing my honors at UP. Anything else below that, I'm horrible. I failed. I mean, I had accepted that I would not pass Matric. My parents told me straightforward after passing Matric that they did not put money for my education because they didn't think I was going to pass Matric. And my mother was a teacher. But I'm a good runner. 1998, I ran a 10 kilometers in a very hilly course in 29 minutes. And these organizers are surprised, like, did you maybe make a 10 somewhere before the 10? And now the traffic guys said, no, this boy led right from the start, and he's been behind our car, and we turned with him, and I look at the clock, 29 minutes. Biggest mistake of my career in that case, in running, is that at the age of 18, I entered the Comrades.
Biggest mistake?
Yes. I'm 18. I'm in Matric. The Comrades is running June, July then. I must write exams, mid-year exams. The Comrades clutch with exams. I tell my parents I'm going to run the Comrades. I'm not going to write the exams. And at that time, it was the time that they were introducing aggregated marks. So mid-year and final year get put together, and you either pass or fail.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to run the Comrades because I'll win it. And they're like, but it's cool. And I'm like, I'm going to run the Comrades. I'll win the Comrades. The way my parents have been, by the way, with all of us, is they've never really been so firm about where our lives should be in specific decisions. They'll tell you what they think, and they'll give you an ultimatum, and you'll do what you want. They've never told us where to go to study, what to study. The only restrictions is whether they're willing to pay for it or not, but they've never really been authoritative in that regard. So I go to the Comrades mid-June, and I'm 18 years old. The Comrades takes from the age of 18 then. I start the race. I remember who won it. Vladimir Kotov. He was 45 years old. He's Russian. He was weighing around 55 kgs as a 45-year-old man. I'm 18. I line up. I know nothing about the Comrades. But anyways, I've been watching it from the times of Willem Dolo, Sam Chavalala, Dimitri Grishin, Carl Matthews, Nick Beste, Alberto Salazar. I've watched every race as far as I can find the footage. So I'm convinced I will win this thing. And I go there and I blow the first 21 kilometers in 1 hour, 13 minutes of the 90 kilometers. And reach halfway. You know, when you receive the result, they give you the breakdown of your splits.
Yeah.
By 35 kilometers, I was 3 seconds behind Kotov, the eventual winner who broke the record that year. I get to halfway, it was still called the pick and pay halfway then, and I cramp. I cramp, I have to walk the second part of the race, pretty much walk the whole second part, and I finish in 8 hours. And I'm miserable, like dream deferred. I have to come home and face my parents. I didn't win the Comrades. I didn't write the Matric.
Were they supportive? Did they give you the money to go down?
You know how I started, this whole support came from? I used to play with older kids in the streets and we'll race your 100 meters, 200 meters. And the older, taller, stronger boys will beat us all the time. And I'm not the kind of guy who likes losing up to now. So these guys always outrun us. The girls, obviously, are always watching. So I decide...
The best motivator for men. Come on.
You see, we only have this running thing on Saturdays, on Sundays when we compete. So I decided to train every day so that by the weekend...
You're ready.
I'm ready. And before they knew it, no one could pace me with me anywhere. Anyways. So my mother says, you know, you're good at this running thing. And she goes and tell my father. And she's like, at least the guy is good at something, you know. Let's buy him a pair of shoes. And my father says, I don't have the money.
Yeah.
And the pair of shoes was, I won't forget them, from Ackermans. It was those tekkies with a small, thin sole and rubber. And I was so excited. I took a marking pen. I wrote on the sole, never get tired.
Who bought it for you? For your mom?
My mom. And she bought me a vest, and I wanted a stopwatch. I didn't know anything, and then she went and bought me that stopwatch for coaches.
Yeah,
not the
one for the wrist.
And she buy me this vest that looks like it's a beach vest and shorts. Look, but I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
Now I was convinced I'm destined to be an elite Kupchigwe, probably the first guy to run a 42 kilometers in under 2 hours.
You finished it in 8 hours?
I finished my first Comrade in 8 hours, 44 minutes, but it was horrible. So I stayed for many years. I come to Joburg.
If you had not cramped.
That's the thing about the Comrades. There's no if. Something else. I mean, it's just unpredictable race. It's a series of hills for 90 kilometers. If you're not going to get cramp, you're going to get hypoglycemic. If you're not going to get hyper, you're going to get dehydration. And at that time, all I run is with water that I pick. There's no energy. There's energy replacement. There's no electrolyte replacement. There's nothing. You're just running because you can run. You know.
So you go back home.
I go back home.
You didn't write your matric exams.
I didn't write my matric exams.
Jeez, and you didn't win this thing.
I didn't win this thing.
Win.
Yeah. And then the school says to me, I was in Hudson Nzangwesi Secondary. I'll tell you about Professor Nzangwesi. Is the guy who literally built the whole of Limpopo under the Bantu stands.
Beautiful.
Homeland. He built everything. The schools we went to. His
Professor
Nzangwesi.
Nzangwesi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He was an equivalent of Mangope and all those people. So he was selected by the then apartheid government to be the chief. And he built the parliament. You know, we used to have a parliament the same as in Cape Town, in Guyana, in Limpopo. So there were 2 parliaments in South Africa.
Where is it?
Guyana.
Is it still there, the parliament?
Still there. It's just used as administrative building now.
Okay. These are the stories we need to tell at some point.
Yes.
That people don't know about.
Yes. He built everything. You know, we had Minute Maid, we had the Libombo bananas, ZZ2 was
Minute Maid?
Yes.
The juice?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Libombo banana. I've seen the Libombo bananas.
Yeah, they literally grew up, they plant those around my house just behind. Beautiful avocados. Beautiful province, Mahobaslof.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can
That's Tito Mboweni's
neighborhood house, yes. No,
he does a lot for the tourism there. I have to give him props for that.
Yes, he does. He comes down to Ngongo and have a chisanyama with people. And
Beautiful.
I've never seen him with a bodyguard or anything like
Beautiful.
that.
You get home, sorry.
Yeah, I get home. I don't have a Comrade gold medal and then maybe 70,000 rands. I don't remember what the price was. And they say, we told you so.
Your parents?
Yes. And then the school says to me, you didn't write matric, chances of passing matric are 0. Because we're going to aggregate your final mark with a 0. And they said, no, you can't write because all you're going to do now is you're going to pull down the standard of the school, the matric school, whatever. So they exclude you, it's better because they don't include you as part of the failures. So you don't pull down the average.
A lot of schools do that, by the way.
Yes.
Sorry to detour.
Sure.
Specifically private schools in this country, because they always want to look good and have 100% pass rate, 100% exemption.
Yes.
When they see kids struggling as far back as grade 10, 11, they try to register those kids with other schools elsewhere, or they ask them to leave because they want their marks to look so good.
Or they tell them not to study specific subjects. In my school, I was told straightforward not to take math high grade. And I've never even gotten 20% in mathematics. I mean, I'm horrible. I get 0s and 10s. And I said, because you're doing this in the name of the school, I'm registering in higher grade. There's nothing you can do about it. Here's my form, here's my signature, go forge it, but I'm going higher grade. I'm going to fail this in higher grade.
Yeah. But I just wanted to say that because there are schools that don't do that.
Yeah.
And end up with an 85, 90%, 95% pass rate.
Yes.
And then other schools boast 100%.
Yes.
But the schools that deserve the praise are the ones that take the kids that are struggling and they say, we'll push.
We'll push you. We won't score the 100, we won't look good, but hey.
When I was in honors at UJ doing accounting, I think it was the biggest accounting honors class in the country. One of the things they pride themselves on was we don't have 100% pass rate.
Yes.
All the other schools, your UCTs, your Rhodes, they boast 100% pass rate at honors. And they say, we feel if we get 100%, there's a chance that there are kids that we didn't let in that would have probably made it. Yes. So if we get up 95, it means there are kids that we tried, they let us down, but it's good enough. So
we have to measure the quality of our education results differently. The methodology is absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
I was not allowed to register for maths, and I don't know where I got that kind of zeal to defy the school system then, to refuse to register. I just did not want to be told what to do, and I still am that kind of a person. That is why I'm unemployed. I just can't last in a system that I'm being told, be here at this time, do this, don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, I suffer now financially, but I've made my choices to rather live that way, and my wife is taking the hit, but I told it to be fine one day.
The school tells you that you can't write Matric. Register. You're going to make us look bad.
I said, I'm going to that, and you can't exclude me without my consent. Otherwise, I'll take you to the circuit office. I'm writing my Matric, and I'm going to fail my Matric if I fail it. I write the Matric. For the first time in my life, my parents sees me studying. For the first time, they don't understand. This guy will wake up in the middle of the night, he's busy.
Yeah.
Because I knew my chances, and I knew my chances of passing were almost zero. But that little chance that I had, I was going to milk it. I was going to study as hard as I could. Because the last thing I want is to be in this home for another year. Because if I don't pass Matric, I don't get to leave home. And all my life, I just couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to grow up and live. I wanted to go. And Matric for me, it was never. And for me, university all my life, I've studied and qualified in 3 universities, 4, including in Costa Rica. But the fact is, I've never seen university just as an education institution for me to get the qualification. Get the qualification, then what? For me, it was always home. It was always a place to belong. You know, and I never used my leggings like status and clothing and other things that other kids look like. I mean, you know UP, you go to UP, everyone drives a car, you know. But I've never, when I went to TEF, I was looking for refugee. I was going there and that's how I started at TEF. I went there, met this woman who became the mother of my child. I'm like, do you have a place to sleep?
Let's take a step back. We're moving very fast now, like your Comrade's pace.
Yeah.
So you went to run the Comrades because that was going to be your way out to leave home.
Yes.
To start a new life as a professional runner.
Yes.
That didn't work.
Yes.
And in it not working, you also missed a chance to write Matric exams in June.
Yes.
Now you realize, since the running thing couldn't get me out, I need something else.
Yes.
And you're like, I'm going to push. And now you're like, this is my second chance to get out. And you're studying for the first time.
Yes.
What happens to your Matric results? And then what happens after that?
I passed my Matric. I've never failed a grade in my life. I don't know where my parents were getting the idea that I was dumb cop, because really, honestly, I had never repeated the class. I just never got the 60%. I always got 40%. If the pass mark was 40%, if it was 50, I'll get the 50. I'm not too different in how I approach work to this day. I'm that guy. I think I suffer from procrastinations, and I always want to think that I could have done better, but I don't never want to put 100% effort in case it become evident that even with my 100% effort, I still failed. So I always give myself, like, I'm going to do this. And I know how silly and how destructive, self-destructive that is, to give anything less than your best, in fearing that if you give your best and you still fail, you'll be more miserable. So I always do just enough to basically convince myself that I've done enough to get through. But if I failed, knowing that I didn't put my best foot forward, I'm still fairly okay, because I'll convince myself that I could have done better if I worked hard. I just chose not to work harder. And that is my single weakest attitude towards life and achievement. And people are like, but you got a PhD. Who gets a PhD in 2 years and a couple of months? I got my master's in 7 months, and that master's scored 72% overall. But my attitude towards that time and when I was a child was too different, and it's different now. So,
do you think those last 6 months, you pushing to pass Matric, are the ones that catapulted what would become your tertiary career? Because like you said, it was kind of the first time you were studying ever.
Yeah.
And maybe you were like, I can actually do this thing. And how did that now translate as you start? You started at TUF.
No, I started at Pretoria Tech. Now,
how did you get in? Did you get exemption and then?
No. So I get my Matric result and it's S.
What's S?
S, it means you've passed Matric but not good enough to go to university. You can go to some technical school.
Sure.
So that's how I say when I passed Matric, I got that. Now, all my friends that I'm so competitive with are going to universities. Their parents have opened bank accounts for them, and they're going to drop them at universities. I knew that in the middle of the year that I'm going to do something, and that has been the story of my life. I always have to do a little bit more than an average person or the next person. So my parents doesn't know this. So in the middle of the year, before I even went, when I came back from the Comrades, knowing very well that my results might not be good enough, I cut all the newspapers that I've ever been published in my running, photographs, take an envelope, put my preliminary results, put all those newspapers as application for admission in a education institution, Pretoria Tech to be specific. Now, I can imagine this from an administrator point of view, sitting on the other side, opening an envelope, expecting good marks. And then it's newspaper stuff all over the floor. Bongani Chavalala third in the 42 kilometers. Bongani Chavalala first on the 10 kilometers. Bongani Chavalala, Comrades Marathon, and all of that.
That was a great move from you. The idea that I may not be academically good, but I am valuable to some extent.
Yes.
And I think your institution will benefit from this other thing. And I think anyone who's going to hear your story, I hope it inspires them to be like, look, you may not be good academically, but tertiary institutions are not only academic institutions. I know we sell them as that.
Yes.
There are a lot of soccer players, rugby players, actors, etc., that have come from those spaces. And I think it also becomes a challenge to administrators to be like, if people are submitting their applications, look at the academics, but can they bring something else?
Yes. And I get admitted with my poor results. And most of my friends who were excelling at school, got rejected. They arrived at Pretoria Tech and there was no internet. So you literally had to go and find your results there, whether you're admitted or not. They arrived there with bags, confident of their academic achievements. There's no way that an institution wouldn't take me. They get there and then they go like, you're not in the list.
Shout out to the administrators that managed to actually approve you just on that.
Yeah, and they give me a chance, and I register for sports and exercise technology, BTech. Now, I'm now on my own. I've got the freedom I was looking for. I'm away from home. I live in Sunnyside with 6 other guys in a room this size. We all have our sponges on the floor. Everyone eats everyone's food when the other person are not looking. we didn't care about girlfriends. I started dating way late in my life, like serious dating. That's why I only got married at the age of 37. I've really tried to stay away from serious commitments. But anyways, we sleep on the floor, on a room like this, 7 of us. All my friends have money to take a bus to school. I can only run to school.
Who's paying for your tertiary fees and your accommodation?
So, not to be embarrassed, my parents finally realized that this guy got admitted.
Yeah.
We are working.
Yeah.
You're a teacher, you work in water stuff. They hear that there's a quantum that is taking a lot of students from town, from Gongowa too. So they get me a space in the quantum.
Beautiful.
And they get a statement from Pretoria Tech to say admission is this, application is this is this. So they paid the $750. I won't forget that amount. And there's a reason why I won't forget it. The institution phoned me for 15 years down the line that I owe them that money the money minus $750, the tuition for the year minus $750. So my parents pay $750. Registration, and I register. And they give me 700 Rand per month. In that 700 Rand per month, 350 was for accommodation. Then there's all food that must come from there. Then there's transport to school that must come from there. There's other things that you do as a guy that must come from there. It's a nightmare. You get the money today, it's gone tomorrow. Well, nothing has changed up to now.
Yeah, I wanted to say there's a lot of kids, and we don't speak about these stories.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids are embarrassed to tell these stories. There are kids that come to Joburg, Durban, Cape Town, wherever universities are. Their parents have sent them with a hope and a dream and a prayer. Yeah. Maybe they've been accepted. Maybe they've got an NSFAS. Maybe they haven't. Yeah. And they go around squatting. Yeah. And they eat where they can. Yeah. And they struggle with it. And they try to push, and it's hard.
Yes.
Some of them make it and becomes a success story.
Yes.
I'd like to think most of them, they don't.
They don't. There was a study that was done on the rate of dropouts in South Africa. The highest dropout rate happens within the first year students, especially in our so-called institutions, your former, like your UPs and all that. UP is brilliant in administration. So, and when I was at UP and I knew that I wasn't going to get my results, the head of department then secretly paid my account. And I just found out when I got the statement that's 10,000 and paid. I'm like, okay, I don't believe in God, and I'm not a superstitious person, and I'm actually not an atheist either. I'm just agnostic.
Are you cultural?
No.
Okay.
I'm very liberal and across. I'm agnostic about most things in life. I'm agnostic about my own identity, Penuel. I don't know who I am. It's hard then to believe in anything else after that.
So when someone is secretly paying your money, what happens?
He doesn't put anything that identify there. And I'm sitting with this guy, I won't forget him, Detlef Krieger. He was my anthropology lecturer at UP. I'm sitting with him, we're having coffee. He liked us having conversations. And I'm like, Detlef, I don't understand what happened. I owed money, but I've seen a positive 10,000 in my student account, meaning I don't owe this year. Then he whispers, he's like, no, that Zimbabwean guy, the head of department, he looks at student that he sees some sort of potential, and from the department funds or from his own pocket every year he throws money behind students' account, but he doesn't tell them, and
That's beautiful.
And he doesn't want to be told. He doesn't want them to know who did it.
You're constantly running ahead of the conversation.
Sure.
When your whole life is about chasing. Yeah. Taking a step back, you guys are staying in one room, 6 of you.
Yes.
And you're saying other guys can afford transport.
Yes.
And you couldn't.
I couldn't. And the transport was R1 per trip. From just around Hatfield. That bus anyways went around town, and R1 to come back. So it was R2 a day.
What's the distance from where you were staying to?
6 km.
6 kilometers,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So, I did the only thing I knew how to. I just packed my things and ran every day to school. So I was covering a distance of 12 kilometers. And I didn't feel that was training. So when I came back from school, I still went to actually do the proper running training, In Pildish Stadium, still going to do my speed work there. And that's where I met most of the guys that I ended up spending most of my life running with. And I go to class, but the struggle is real. I'm hungry most of the time. It's embarrassing, it's degrading. Hunger is degrading. Poverty, I don't know how to define it. Especially if you know that you're not necessarily from a poor family. I think I would have accepted if I knew where I come from, there is nothing. My parents have sold the goats and the sheep, and they've sold everything. But no, my mother chose to buy a fridge instead of paying more of my school fees. She actually went and chose to buy a car, which nearly killed her down the line. But the point is, I was suffering. I was hungry most of the time in class. You are hungry in class. You're thinking, maybe if I go back home, when you have something in your flat, you can look forward to eating something. But there's also nothing there, So now I must pass this, and I fail. Get my results mid-year, horrible results. My parents finds out about the results, blow the gasket. They're mad. We knew it.
Are you running?
No.
At this time?
Yes, I'm running for Pretoria Tech.
You're doing well?
Very competitive.
Okay.
Very competitive. I'm running I qualified for the SASAs then. For the 21 kilometers, there's a coach that coached.
SASA is the national competitions.
Sports, yes, for all universities.
Sure.
I'm coached by Pete. I still call him. I meet him now at the gym at Virgin Active. He's old, but he's bulky. I stopped going to gym, I think 2 years ago, and he was still there in his 70s, looking bulky.
Sure.
And I wasn't the best runner anymore. The great guys who run 28 minutes, 10Ks, they win 21 kilometers in 1:07, 1:06. I'm still running 1:15, 1:12. And so my running is not going great, and my schooling is terrible.
And your parents are upset?
My parents are upset. So I drop out. I get a place in Atteridgeville in a garage.
So you don't want to go back home?
You could never convince me to go home, even now. You could never there's nothing you can do that will make me go into that house, like walk through those gates.
Atteridgeville,
I'm looking for accommodation. This family says, we've got a garage at the back. It's a garage. It's a car parking garage. You see what you do is 150 per month. But my running started picking up. I remember running the Agape 32 kilometers. Finished 4th. Now I get spotted. Right? And someone says, no, you need to talk to Nick Bester. He was now running the Harmony Gold Mine Athletic Club. You know, it was the days of the Rent Meester Athletic Club. And then we meet at Pilditch Stadium. He signs me up under. He asks, so he sees me running most races. He's like, where do you stay? Where do you train? I'm like, I stay in Attridgeville. He's like, is that home? I'm like, nope, it's a garage at the back of the house. We're doing our weekly time trial. And he says to me with his wife, we're driving in this nice fancy car, and I'm thinking I'll be like you one day. He says to me, Chavalala, I'm thinking of convincing the mine to buy a clubhouse where you could stay. I'm still 18 or so, still a junior. I was so excited, and gives me this house in Latach and Rebecca Street. They've demolished the house now. I go past there and I'm like, that house is no longer here. But anyways, I go to stay in that clubhouse. He brings me food now and then, shoes, energy drinks, the time of spirulina. I'm not sure if you remember spirulina's this greenish pills that apparently had this nutritional value that like your Herbalife kind of those who want to lose. Yeah, spirulina. I always think of that name. They won't come up with the name. But I stay in the clubhouse, but more guys come in. Willie comes to train there before he won the Macau Marathon. Good runners come in. Top 10 Comrades marathoners come. We stay together there. But the competition behind the road, besides the road running, starts up. And I still believe there was a teaming of some sort. I was the only guy who could read well and write well and was educated, and I was been in some institution. But the guys didn't really like me.
Most of the guys were not...
Yeah, because Nick always spoke to me privately in their presence.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's a huge... My phone gets stolen. I go and open the case. I get kicked out of the clubhouse for opening a case, for bringing attention to whatever. Nick, yeah. Where to now? 2003. This was 2003. I hear over the news that there's a girl in my town. She suffers from cancer. Almost like her jaw. It was overgrowing. And she needed money to get an operation. I think it was around 250,000. I'm not busy with anything. I'm not at school. I'm not in a clubhouse. I'm not running for any club anymore. So I meet the family and I'm like, you know, there's not much I can do about the 250,000, but I can run. What if I ran and we got the media on board and we get 250,000 to give us R1 each? You know, he said, but, you know, so we galvanized the media and so where are you going to run from? I'm going to run from Pretoria to Tzaneen, Limpopo.
What's that distance?
Around 490. So this thing gets organized and I run from Pretoria to Tzaneen in 4 days. So 100 Ks a day, sort of.
You finished it?
I finished it. I arrive at the stadium.
Yes.
The local councillors are there. The mayor is there. Donations are made. And I make one plea. One plea. You can guess what it is. Can someone take me to school? The money that I've raised is for that purpose. I just want to go to school. If anyone ever wants to do anything for me, can someone register me at the university? Doesn't work out. There's a gentleman who tried, but he pretended to be able to. Took me to Val University. Didn't work out. And when I was still wondering this, now I'm studying now to be a street child. Remember, I can't be home either way. And I can't, you know, I have no sense of belonging at all. So one day I'm walking around, I see this newspaper clip, Boston Media House, intake, 2003, Rivonia address. I'm in Val. Take a train, come to Joburg, go to the address, knock at the door. Hi, can I speak to the principal? And they were like, you want admission? Are you registered? I'm like, yes, I want admission. I said, that's a finance office, registration 3.5. I have not touched 3,000 Rand in my life. I said, I don't have money. Can I speak to the principal? They said, no, his office is there. I got there and I'm like, hey, principal, staff. I would like to study. I chose you. I chose the college. I chose to study here and I don't have money. But guess how I'm selling myself? I can run. I'm a brilliant runner.
Yeah.
Give me a chance to study for free. He was confused. He's like, no, Chavalala, we get bursary application. There's a channel for... No one walks here and persuade us like this. You write and then we look at your results. I don't even look at my results. They're just bad. So he's like, so you are telling me you don't have money and your results are bad and the only thing you can do is run.
And Boston doesn't have a running...
No, they don't even have a running club, let alone any sports for that matter, except maybe in open days.
Yeah.
His name was Alan Poyers. And he says to me, come back tomorrow so I can speak to the other colleagues. I got there to the following day's open day. Pulls out the envelope. He says, okay, fine, you can study here. We've all agreed you can study at the Boston Media House for the duration of your diploma. Whatever you want to study, by the way, it's your choice.
That's nice.
And I choose film. We were forced to do radio as part of the package in marketing and public relations, but I wanted to specialize in film production.
Yeah.
I studied the first year, 2003, 2004. Problems follows me, my friend. I get kicked out. Now I'm back to, now it's worse. I don't have a place to stay.
Why do you get kicked out?
So Alan left the college and there was a new administration from the principal's position.
Yeah.
And they did not recognize my
this agreement you had with Alan.
Yes. So I was told, pay up or leave. That whole year, I was living anywhere where anyone is able to give me any sort of shelter. From under the bridges in Hillbrow to squatting with friends that were still thinking I'm a champion in the making. And so they were happy to...
You were sleeping under bridges in Hillbrow?
Yes.
Instead of going home?
Yes, but I'm now also at Boston College. So I need to now be able to run to school. But the school is in Rivonia. I live in Hillbrow, right?
Squatting and sleeping under bridges?
Yeah. If I find Penuel, who knows me from Zanin, I'm like, hey, man, that's me. They will give me an accommodation for now and then until they get tired of me. And probably I eat too much too because I was always the running. But anyways, people who are willing to help now and then, and when they get tired, is back to some bridge, back to some corner with whoever I felt safe with. And safety was never even my concern. I didn't care whether I died or lived anyways. And it's ironically, that's when people normally don't get hurt or die, when they just don't care about their well-being. Every morning, from wherever I wake up, I take my books, put a Vaslap. If I have food, put it in a school bag and run to Rivonia. I think if you calculate the distance now, it could be around 20, 22 Ks from Hillbrow to downtown Rivonia to the college. So I run every day to school, get there before anyone. So I run from 4 o'clock, run so that I can arrive there just around maybe 2 hours, change in the toilets, join the class like everyone else. And it became known that there's a guy, we've seen you like past Rivonia Road, Oxford Road, speeding past traffic, arriving there before our taxis even get there on a school bag. And I then squat with this guy from home. That's where I met my current wife. And she was staying with her cousin. I was actually with her friend before I knew her. None of them liked me. I was too skinny. And they said, no, there's some Zulu girl upstairs. She's has never dated. She's young. Maybe you guys can get it along. So she comes down wearing this red dress. And we click. We click. And she knows everything. She gets to know everything about me. I get to know everything about her. And then she starts sneaking food to me. She would cook. Remember now, if I run from Rivonia back to Hillbrow after school, I only arrive there at around 5, 6. I'm hungry. So she will always take from her cousin's stuff and sneak it and call with the intercom, and she'll call, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Okay. She brings something we eat. We sit in the living room and dream about our lives.
Yeah.
Talk about what will happen when we finally make it in life. And. But then she finds a church in 2004. The church says to her, you can't date outside of believers, and not, especially the one those are not in this church. And I said to her, bye-bye then. You know. And life in general was just too hard. I'm now suicidal. You know. I'll cut a bit of the middle stories, but the long and short of it is I ended up telling her I need to get out of town. You know. There's a song I like, A Midnight Train to Georgia.
Yeah.
That song is perfectly scripted for that moment in my life.
Yeah. I
said, I'm tired of this town. I've tried and tried and tried. There's nothing working out for me. So I'll take a train. So I said to her, I'll take a train. I don't have money. We'll see what we do. And then she says, no, you know, from her late father had passed away. And she says, I have 1,000 rand that my father had saved for me somewhere. It's in this card. She gives me the card. Guess what? I don't buy the bus ticket to go back.
The train ticket.
I don't buy the train ticket. I don't buy the bus ticket. I buy a bicycle. So I go to downtown and I buy a bicycle. I give her the card and I cycle from Hillbrow to Limpopo.
Jeez.
Right?
What distance was that now? Back to Tzaneen, 4?
Yeah.
Because that's Pretoria.
This was
more than Pretoria.
Yes, and this is the only time that I actually go back home to my parents' house after all these years. On a bicycle, my mother opens the door. There's a knock. There's me on the door with a bike, tights, and a school bag.
How long did that distance take you?
I actually did it in less than 24 hours. Because, except that I actually did stop and sleep, but when I calculate the time spent on the road.
From Joburg to Tzaneen?
Yes. I had now ran my second Comrades in the same year. So 2004, I ran my second Comrades, this time convinced. Again, cramps finish in just around 8 hours again. So nothing works. Running is not working. School is not working. My girlfriend has left me for church, for her faith.
Yeah.
I now am cycling down back home. I'm going to humble myself back to my parents. I don't know what that means. Lowest point of my life. I get home. Chavalala does not even come out to greet me. And it's just that they couldn't chase me right away. But literally, if they could, they would have done it. Then they start fighting. They're arguing that night about my presence back home. And I hear the arguments. The following day, when Chavalala went for work, my mother went for work, went to their bedroom. I know Chavalala has money. Chavalala is very frugal. He's the guy who can save 78% of his salary every month for 15 years.
Jeez.
I go to his wardrobe. I open this bag that he did not know that I know it. Those those bags with the round numbers.
With the codes.
I find a lot of money. Must have been like 8,000-9,000 rands there. I select only I take only 2.5 and I write a note. A long letter, how I don't think he's my father. All the questions that I have about him, everything. And I said, don't worry about the money. It's not my brother who took it. I took it. But you will never, ever see me again. Ever. And I leave it there. Now, the unfortunate part is my mother found the note first. Actually, I didn't put it in the bag. I put it on top of the bed. So she finds the note, destroys the note, except to say Bongani took the money. But she doesn't give him the letter for him to see all the things that I had said there.
Yeah.
I'm gone. I've taken his 2005. I know this is the final nail on this relationship. Now, I'm in a taxi. I'm thinking I'm going to come back to Joburg. I'm in a taxi. I actually took a taxi to Joburg. I thought I'm going to go back to my wife and apologize. I'll do what I need to do to make a living in Joburg. But somehow when the taxi arrives at Tefluop, University of Limpopo, and this is December, something in me says, get out of the taxi. So I tell the taxi driver I'm getting off. He's like, no, you want to change? You paid for it. I said, no, you can keep the change. I get out, wanders the streets, straight to gate 3, greet the securities. And the way I greeted them with confidence, they thought I'm either a staff member or a student. They allowed me in, and I go in. I go to the stadium. I have one session of a jog. Go up the stairs, sleep. Slept there for 3 or 4 nights. One day I'm going to the gate to buy something to eat. I can't leave the university, so I buy over the fence. I meet this woman, chubby, short, beautiful in her own way, with braces and school bag, tomboyish. I'm like, I'm staying at the stadium. Do you by any chance know if there's a room here? She's like, no, it's December, everything closed. At that moment, she says to me, there's a guy called Stephen Palo. He's a rest manager. He speaks your language. You guys can talk. He has keys for all the rooms that students have left. If he gives you a chance to sleep in one of those rooms, just don't switch on the light at any given time, because then security will think there's someone. There shouldn't be anyone. Yeah. So I live in this room that I actually removed the loop to make sure I don't make that mistake. And she now brings me food from home every morning. She was doing her honors degree in aquaculture. Now she started giving me a thesis to edit, to read. You see, so I read and I see a lot of mistakes. And she started trusting me to help her doing her fish sampling and measurements and feeding patterns, because she was studying the patterns of specific species of fish and their reproductive. She wouldn't believe I still remember her actual thesis. So I started saying to her, I see what you do. You don't have to leave home. I'll do the feeding for you. I know exactly what you're trying to do here. You know. And then she was like, okay, fine. We do that. And then January comes, and I said to her, thanks, lady. People want their room back. I might as well head back to Joburg. My girlfriend probably will be happy to see me. And she says to me, but you're not bad as a scholar. You understood my things far much more quicker than most of my friends who are doing honors degrees, and you only have Matric. So why don't you register here? As I'm 23 years old, I've asked for Matric. I don't have money for registrations. She pulls out this shoebox, 25,000 rand that I've been living with in that room for a longest time that I didn't know existed. She pulls it out and she says, yes, 2.5. I've spoken to someone at S Block where the finance NSFAS is. Go speak to him. They will accept you at the university. You now have reached age exemption, meaning you're now 23. They no longer look at your Matric. I do that. I get admitted. I get admitted for a BA degree in communication sciences. And I get given a room for the first time in my life. For at least 12 months, I have a room of my own with a bed and a chair. I forget the fact that I don't have a fridge or food. I'm just so happy. You know what? I'll wander the streets during the day and have a place perfectly with a key. Meant a lot for me. And I studied hard. And I qualified. I got my degree, got my degree. And then that woman that helped me became the mother of my first son. And he's 16 years old now, giving me a headache. But and whenever I say he's giving me this guy, he's exactly like you. But that is up to that point, Penuel. But the long and short of it is I ended up working here, working there. Ended up going to UP, pursuing my honors degree. Going to UNISA, pursuing my MSc. Pursued my PhD, got my PhD, married my wife the very same night, asked her to marry me the very same night of my PhD graduation in my red gown.
What happens to the woman you've been with now?
We had broken up in 2008. We moved to Stellenbosch in Cape Town together. She got a job there and I followed her, and I started trying to get a job there while I was looking after our son. And when I got a job, I was selling cleaning machine. So I came here and said to you, I can demonstrate how this thing can
yes, man,
clean your carpet. And I was doing that in Stellenbosch in white people's houses. Yeah. And most of the doors were not opening. People wouldn't open their doors or their gates, but I would force myself there. I'm not very good in pretending, but I had to learn to sell. And I started making a bit of money, and I made money. And I went and bought myself a BMW 525i.
Yes, man.
And she started thinking that I'm seeing girls now because I'm always out in the evenings. I said, but that is the only time I sell machines. The house people, the women who own the homes that make those decisions are working during the day. I can only sell to them in the evenings. We have a big fight. She locks me out. My pride couldn't accept it. I pack everything, which was not much. Just my running stuff, my guitar, put them in the back of my BMW. Guess where I'm going? Back to Teflop. Drive back to Limpopo. Longest drive of my life. I don't even own a driver's license, by the way. I bought that car cash, so I never had to produce it.
Wow. Stellenbosch to Teflop?
Yes, to Limpopo. And I don't have it. I only got my driver's license in 2013, by the way, and I'm 40 years old.
Yeah.
Those are the things that my father wouldn't even do for me. Just a driver's license. Anyways, I end up back in Teflop. I meet a girl. We stay together. Meet another girl when we broke up. Come back to Pretoria. Have my second son with this girl. She passed away in 2019. And I choose to go to UP. And by some fate or chance, I don't know, I get accepted there as well to do my honors. And I do my honors. I graduate in 2011. The most emotional day of my life. And I want to do a master's in environmental management, but I don't have an environmental background. So I write a huge, nice proposal about what I'm going to do in my research, and I send it to UNISA. And I get accepted for an MSc. Now, the supervisor, Professor Godwell Namo, he's still my mentor, man. He's still like the father I needed. He receives my application and says, you've got communication stuff. You want to do MSc? This is complex. And I'm not going to allow you to do that. So I'm not going to supervise you. So I said to him, Prof, my life has been long. Please, not now. I've walked a far much more longer road for me to accept you telling me you can supervise me because you think I can't. Give me a week to write your proposal. A full proposal, master's proposal. If you don't like it, fine. But if you like it, you have to supervise me. And he says to me, I have a week. I'll give you a week. You South Africans are lazy. I have so many lazy students here who are clogging the system. It's very efficient. And as I'll show you, I write the proposal. I think that's to do with green economy, something like that. And he calls me. He's like, come, we'll sit down. He's like, okay, fine, I'll supervise you. Actually, are you working? And I'm like, no. He's like, okay, fine. I have a position. I need a research assistant. I'm like, how much am I going to earn? He's like, around 12,500. I'm like, I've never earned such money in my life. So the answer is yes. And he's like, but don't worry, this thing is just to keep you here in the walls of the university. So you study. The job is not like there's a job that you'll be going to. You'll be here. I'm giving you an office and you will work here and you'll study here. I want to see you get this master's thing done. You look like a dedicated young man. And I get the master's done in 9 months, and I was studying the energy efficiency in gold mining, and I used Harmon Gold Mine as a case study. And I get my master's, and he says to me, you got your master's. I don't think you should exit the university. Do your PhD with me. Now that you have a master's, your salary goes up anyways. If you go and get a job, you'll get like lazy like the rest of your friends who just gonna give me excuses about work and family and stuff. So stay here. I will increase your salary. Do your PhD with me.
I want to take a step back. You said your honors graduation at UP was the most emotional day of your life. Why was that?
I come from Teflop, and Teflop is so-called rural university. And when you go to the third best ranked university and get an honors, it's a lot of affirmation. It's a lot of affirmation. I'm not saying we should take the University of Limpopo qualifications as less. Yeah. I'm just saying there's a reason why universities get ranked. And for me to qualify from UP and the stuff that I had to go through, and my girlfriend on that day was pregnant with my son. Actually, I have pictures that the time shows. We're in the graduation.
Yeah.
And I had named him Willow. And I gave him that name on that day. When you enter the University of Pretoria gate, there's this wetlands around, and there's this big willow trees. And then as we walked in for my graduation, and I looked at Tammy, I'm like, his name is going to be Willow. So I named him on that day. And that boy is the best version of myself. Well, up to now.
So you stay to do your PhD. I want to finish off your tertiary, and then I want to speak fatherhood quickly before we close.
No problem.
No, I'm saying, so you finish your PhD and you finish your master's and then you stay.
I stay and I do my PhD, and I get to travel overseas now. I get to be invited by American embassies. I get to be invited to present my work. I get a chance to go and get qualification in Costa Rica in Cat University. I get to travel Earth University. There's another university there called Earth University. My life has turned for good, you know.
We missed the part about how you ended back with your current wife.
So,
because I think the last you left the lady that helped you at Surf Flow.
Yeah.
You guys moved to Stellenbosch.
Yeah.
You work there, it doesn't work. You guys fight.
Yeah.
You drive and leave.
Yeah.
You get back to Surf Flow.
Yeah.
Date a few girls.
Yeah.
How do you end back with your current wife?
When I'm at UP, I had now met Willow's mother. We live in Sunnyside. And we are fine, you know. I don't know what is it about men, and when life gets better, we start to see more women. Our true potential is never truly revealed when we're struggling. You know, my life is better now. I start to see beautiful girls too, like way above girls that I could never thought would even look at me twice. And I started having girlfriends, and it was just difficult. Around 2014, I just told her we can't do this anymore. Not because I had another woman, but we also grew apart. She chose not to study, not to advance her career in any way, and now I'm being this person who's now more interested in complex discussions about things.
This is Willow's mother who passed away?
Yes.
Okay.
But we're no longer on the same page in life. Wonderful person, honest person, reliant person, she was just a wonderful person. But we were still drifting apart. So I ended the relationship. And I stayed alone in Hatfield and pursued my studies. Now, the mother of my wife now is almost back in the picture. We talk more often now, right? She knows Willow. She knows Katleho. Now and then they call each other, they talk with my wife, who's now just my ex at that time. In the middle of my PhD, yes, I have relationships here and there, but nothing serious. I meet this girl, for God's sake, my high school crush, the most beautiful girl in school in that time. I'm not sure if I should mention her name, but anyways.
Don't mention her name.
I meet her. She's doing well in life. She's in the banking sector. For some reason we click, we get together, we have this relationship. And somewhere down the line, I started picking red flags about her character. And I'm like, nah, this is not going to work. But in that frustration, in fact, the way it happened, how we broke up is we had a date with her. And my wife had asked me for a date. Not as my wife, not as an ex, just as a friend. On the same day, same time. And I said yes to both of them. So now I need to go to one of them. And I just chose to go to my current wife's date and used that to break up with my then girlfriend. I just told her, I'm not going to do this relationship with you anymore. Let's end it here. And I did that on SMS. I'm a coward. Did that in an SMS and blocked her phone. And then I went and had a nice dinner with my wife. I repeat, she was not my wife. We're not dating. In case people say I was cheating, I was not cheating. She was just still my friend. And we start talking more. Now that I'm heartbroken with this breakup, I'm thinking, Chavalala, you're now 34. You are in the middle of your PhD. It's clear you're going to get this thing done. You now have 2 children and you're not dating any of their mothers. Do you really want to have more children out there that you're not raising? Knowing where you come from as a child, you know? So I phoned her one day. I'm like, hey, dude, I must have been a little bit tipsy. I'm like, hey, I call her Malum. I'm like, hey, Malum, are you by any chance dating or married or something? She's like, no, I'm not dating. If I was married, you would have been the first one to know. I'm like, okay, now this is my pettiness. Have you seen any man in the last 13 years? In the last 13 years of us having broken up? She's like, no, I've been to dates with brothers, but hey, I've not even touched another man in any way. So I said, okay, tell me something. Is there a chance? Would you consider marrying me? And she was like, Chavalala, When I met you in 2003, staying with your friend, and you had nothing but dreams, and you sold me a lot of them, by the way, I knew that if I would ever marry someone, it would be you. So I'm not surprised that you asked me to marry you. And the answer is yes. I'll just have to speak to my 7 brothers. And I'm thinking, sure, I can't mess up. 7 Zulu brothers. It's just one of those things. She says yes. I tell Professor Namo. I said to him, Prof, I'm going to get married. He says, hallelujah. I've been telling you, young man, you need to marry, settle down. You're too impulsive. You're too this. Now, marry that woman. If she's good for you, you'll learn how to build a family. Your PhD is down the line as well. So I said, Prof, I'm not going to get my parents to go down to KZN. Who's going to go there and negotiate for my lobola? He says, young man, your troubles are many. I said, no, it's fine, Prof. So I called my co-supervisor, Dr. Mjima. I said, Vuyo, today you're my uncle. And I called my other friend, Matladi. I said, Matladi, you guys, we're driving to KZN. You're going to negotiate lobola for me. So actually, my co-supervisor and my friend went to KZN to Stenga, convinced the whole Zulu family that don't worry about his parents. Yes. We are here as his friends to negotiate for him.
Sure.
And they negotiated for me. And I told them, accept whatever they're asking for. I don't care. And they came back with a huge price. I'm like, guys, you could have reduced this. It's just too much money.
Yeah.
But anyways, the family gave us the money back to go and have our wedding.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and we pulled out the money that I could pull. I emptied my pockets and everything. And I'm like, okay, this is all I have. And I'm thinking, what am I going to eat? Where am I going to take this woman to? I don't even have a house now. But having asked her to marry me and having her saying yes forced me to buy my first property. And I told myself that if I marry, I'm going to take that woman to my house, not to a rented room or rented flat, nothing. I'm going to have to have my own house. We have a house that we live in, bought it as a student 6 years ago. She also had her own flat here in Newton, and she's just renting it out now. The point is, I got to marry that woman, the only woman I've ever promised to marry. And we have a son, his name is Luandle. And that name as well is dual. Luandle means the same thing in Tsonga and Venda. Sorry, in Tsonga and Zulu. He looks a lot like her, but at least I'm sure he's mine.
Just in closing, your relationship with your father seems to have had a huge impact on your life. And your relationship with your parents and your journey has been quite harsh. And in everything you've been saying, I've just been picking up some of the ways that you've criticized your parents and how they've parented you. And I don't think we're going to get a chance today to speak to what you're saying of your parenting style. How are you currently raising your sons? How do you feel about them, and how do you feel about yourself as a father?
It's a tough role to be a father. They look up to me. They look at me. My son, Luandle, the 3-year-old one, he puts on my hats, he put on my sunglasses, he walks in my shoes, literally put on my shoes and drag them around the house. These are the things we overlook as parents. That there's no other description that shows you how influential you are as a father to your own sons. I have 2 sons. At some point, I had 2 sons that I was not having direct influence in their lives. Now I have one that I don't have direct influence in his life. I have now the honor of raising these 2 with me. I have tough time with punishment. And I fear the consequence of my fear of punishing them, because I'm reflecting on my way that I was punished and how that turned out to be in my relationship with my father. So when my father beat me, what that did is it created firstly fear, then it later in life created hate, and now I'm in a situation where I don't regard him at all. I don't think of him and his existence and any influence in my life. And I'm too old to be influenced by him anyways at this point in my life. I look at my children when they misbehave. I can't raise my hand, Penuel. And not because I shouldn't, and not because when I do it, they would turn out to hate me. I think when the day I took a belt and hit Willow, he wasn't angry with me 3 hours down the line. He actually almost insinuated that he understands. You know. So maybe we shouldn't do what our government has done. When there is a system in place, even if the system's intentions are not good, but if the actions of that system is productive, don't scrap the system as a whole. Look at the intentions and look at the actions. What do I mean? You take death penalty. You take a lot of laws that we passed in the current government that simply wanted to turn around the apartheid government's rules and then bring something 360-degree different from what we had. Was apartheid government effective in some way in dealing with crime? Was the death penalty so bad? No, it wasn't. It was actually effective. There are things that were done in that system that we look at now, and then we just put them together and club them together with the system and say, this was apartheid law, so get rid of them, and get rid of them without looking at what did they achieve and what were they not achieving. I'm for death penalty. I know you know what I think about democracy. We don't deserve it yet. We don't need it in South Africa. We're not matured enough to handle democracy's responsibilities. We're not complex enough to make decisions informed by an objective of development, economic development for that matter. Democracy requires a sophisticated society. It requires an average education of every person at least having an undergraduate degree. It requires self-reliant people who will not make any decisions based on hunger, but based on rationality and vision. I know I'm deviating from the question, but I don't see family structure as different from government. A government is a family. You have a head president, is the father. Then you have the children, which is us. You have the mother as maybe some of the cabinet members and maybe other structures like COSATU and other guys. That is how I see a family. I'm the head of my family. The fact that I don't practice democracy in my house, it does not mean I abuse my children. There's no link between non-democracy and human rights abuses. The two doesn't mean that they coexist naturally. So how do I deal with my children? The same way I would like the government to run. Scrap democracy, not democracy in my house. I tell Willow, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. You're going to eat this because my intentions are good. If I say this is what you eat, I worry about his health. Whether he agrees in his impulsive or doesn't agree based on his impulsive immediate needs, I have a far much bigger vision than he does. And I just wanted us to almost reach the end of this conversation to share not only my personal stories, but what I think about state of governance and government and where we are and where I think we will end up. I think there is no one in the current structures who is capable, able, willing, and has capacity, who is not compromised enough to effect any meaningful change. You almost need an overall, and then you need to get rid of democracy, please. You can't have a democracy when you have so many opposing legal bodies objecting to every little thing, taking you to court and drag you to court and spend years just to make a small decision. Scrap democracy. I would vote any day for a dictator whose intentions are good.
Are you still running?
No. I jog, but 3 kilometers is enough. I'll jog, and if I run 3 kilometers, I need to rest for 2 days because my body is just...
Bongani, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm looking forward to engaging with you again soon. Thank you for trusting us with your story.
Sure.
And we're hoping that a lot of people are going to learn from it. Perseverance, never giving up. The fact that you wrote over suicide, or being suicidal, we didn't touch on that deeply. Some of the struggles men have, dealing with different women, having children with different women. I know we also just touched on that. I think there was a heavy theme of the impact that fathers have on their kids.
Yeah.
And mothers as well. I mean, some of the beautiful times where if your father was falling short, your mother was there to buy you those things.
Yeah.
She was there I think in her head, she was covering for you when she tore up the letter. We could have called it wisdom from her side. We don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of the women that have been in your life and the impact they've had, feeding you, educating you, believing in you. And it sounds like your wife is an amazing person. And even before you guys got back together, her relationship with your other kids I wish you guys nothing but the greatest of luck in your marriage. I'm wishing you luck in your career. And I hope with your stories in one way or another, not only to your 3 boys, I think we need as many young people as possible to hear stories like yours and to reach out to people like you, especially boys from Mozanini. Because I know for a fact there are kids today that come from anywhere in the country, Eastern Cape, Limpopo, KZN, Mpumalanga, Northwest, that are going to be squatting somewhere, that are going to be sleeping under a bridge somewhere. They have homes, but there's a reason why they don't want to go there. And they don't know where to go. And I hope we can find ways to help them solve their problems and at least give them opportunities to find dignified ways to feed themselves, educate themselves, make a change. And I hope, not just our fathers, I hope we can become better men and better fathers for our kids. Because I know if we can get the father's part right, it'll automatically filter to what you're saying all the way up to government.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us, and I look forward to engaging with you again soon.
Thanks, Penuel.
Easy.